May 2026 is one of those months that rewards anyone who takes the time to look up. It opens with a full moon and a meteor shower already in progress. It delivers one of the most beautiful close encounters between the moon and the brightest planet in the sky right in the middle of the month. And it closes with a rare astronomical phenomenon that happens only once every 2 to 3 years. Whether you are a seasoned amateur astronomer with a telescope on your patio, or someone who has never thought much about what is happening above the rooftops, this month has something for every level of skywatcher. Here is your complete guide to everything worth seeing in May 2026. When to look, where to look, and what makes each event worth getting outside for. The month begins on May 1st with a full moon. This particular full moon carries a traditional name that comes from centuries of human observation of the natural world. It is called the flower moon, named for the profusion of wildflowers that bloom across the northern hemisphere during the warming weeks of late spring. The flower moon reaches its peak illumination on May 1st at 1723 UTC, which works out to 1:23 in the afternoon Eastern Time, meaning that the best views of it as a fully lit disk will come on the evening of May 1st after sunset, when it rises in the east, already glowing with the light of the sun reflected off its entire near side. The moon will be positioned in the constellation Libra during its full moon phase. It will appear in the same area of the sky across consecutive evenings, though its exact position will shift slightly each night as it continues its 29.5-day orbit around Earth. Full moons in May tend to appear particularly orange or yellow when they are low on the horizon, an optical effect produced by the Earth's atmosphere scattering shorter wavelengths of light when the moon's light travels through. More of the atmosphere at a low angle than it does when the moon is directly overhead. The effect is the same one that makes sunsets appear red and orange rather than white. Higher in the sky, the flower moon will shift to its familiar silvery white. Both are worth watching. Now turn your attention to the Eta Aquarid Meteor Shower, which is the centerpiece of early May's Skywatching calendar and one of the most scientifically interesting meteor showers of the entire year. The Eta Aquarids are active from April 19th through May 28th each year, but the shower's peak falls on the night of May 5th into the morning of May 6th, 2026. This is the night when Earth passes most directly through the densest part of the debris trail that produces the shower, and when the rate of meteors visible from a dark location reaches its maximum. The origin of the Eta Aquarid meteors is one of the most famous objects in the solar system. They come from Halley's Comet, one of the most studied and celebrated celestial objects in human history. Halley's Comet orbits the Sun on a roughly 76-year cycle, traveling from the outer reaches of the solar system to the inner solar system and back again in a long elliptical path. Every time it passes close to the Sun, the comet's surface heats up and releases gas and dust in a process called outgassing. The dust and rocky debris scattered along the comet's orbital path form a constant stream of meteoroids distributed across the trajectory the comet follows. Earth intersects this debris stream twice each year, once in early May and once in late October, producing 2 separate meteor showers. The May shower is the Eta Aquarids. The October shower is the Orionids. Both trace their origin to the same comet, but they come from different parts of its debris trail encountered at different points in Earth's annual orbit around the Sun. Halley's Comet last passed through the inner solar system in 1986, when it was observed by spacecraft, including the European Space Agency's Giotto probe, which captured the first close-up images of a comet nucleus. The comet will not return until 2061. In the meantime, the debris it has left behind on its repeated passages through the solar system continues to produce meteor showers every year, giving skywatchers on Earth an annual reminder of the comet's existence, even when it is far beyond the orbit of Neptune. The name Eta Aquarids comes from the radiant point of the shower, which is the location in the sky from which the meteors appear to originate when you trace their paths backward. This radiant lies near the star Eta Aquarii in the constellation Aquarius, the water bearer. The radiant point is not the actual source of the meteors in space. It is a perspective effect, similar to the way snowflakes appear to radiate outward from a single point ahead of you when you drive through falling snow. The meteors are actually traveling in parallel paths through the atmosphere, but perspective makes them appear to diverge from a single spot. The viewing conditions for the Eta Aquarids in 2026 are complicated by the presence of the waning gibbous moon, which will still be relatively bright during the peak nights of May 5th and 6th. A bright moon washes out the fainter meteors in the shower by flooding the sky with reflected light, effectively raising the brightness threshold below which meteors become invisible. The Eta Aquarids are fast meteors, entering the atmosphere at approximately 66 kilometers per second, and many of them leave persistent glowing trails called trains that linger for several seconds after the meteor itself has passed. These brighter meteors and their trains are still visible through moonlight, but the total rate of meteors that you can see from a moonlit location will be significantly lower than the rates achievable from a truly dark site on a moonless night. In the southern hemisphere, the Eta Aquarids are at their most spectacular, with rates of up to 60 meters per hour possible under ideal dark sky conditions near the peak. This is because the radiant in Aquarius rises much higher in the sky for southern hemisphere observers, giving the shower's meteors more sky to traverse before they hit the horizon and more time to be visible. In the northern hemisphere, where the radiant rises lower in the pre-dawn sky, the rate is approximately 30 meters per hour under ideal conditions, reduced further by the moonlight in 2026. The best strategy for northern hemisphere viewers is to go out in the darkest part of the night, between approximately 2 a.m. and the first light of dawn, face east or southeast, and give your eyes at least 20 minutes to fully adapt to the darkness before expecting to see the fainter meteors. No equipment is needed. Binoculars and telescopes have too narrow a field of view to be useful for meteor watching. The entire open sky is your instrument. The Eta Aquarids are worth the early morning effort, not just for the meteors themselves, but for the awareness they bring of what the night sky actually represents. Every streak of light you see during the shower is a tiny fragment of Halley's Comet, a piece of material that has been traveling through the solar system for billions of years, now ending its journey in a fraction of a second of brilliant light as it encounters Earth's atmosphere. The comet that produced it was observed by human beings in 1066, when it appeared in the sky before the Battle of Hastings and was depicted in the Bayeux Tapestry. It appeared in 1222 when Genghis Khan reportedly took it as a sign to lead his armies westward. It appeared in 1910 when Earth passed through its tail and caused widespread public alarm about atmospheric contamination, which proved unfounded. The debris from all of those passages is still in space, still producing meteor showers, still visible to anyone who goes outside before dawn on the right night in May. The middle of May brings the Skywatching highlight that NASA specifically featured in its official guide to May 2026. On the evening of May 18th, step outside after sunset and look west. You will find the crescent moon and Venus appearing in a close pairing low in the western sky. The two objects will be visible together for approximately 2 hours after sunset before they follow the sun below the horizon. Venus is unmistakably bright in the western sky after sunset during May 2026, the result of its position in its orbit relative to Earth and the sun. It is currently the evening star, the brilliant white point of light that outshines every other star or planet in the sky and is visible in the west during and after evening twilight. Venus's brightness in the night sky is the result of several factors working together. The planet is covered by a thick atmosphere of carbon dioxide and sulfuric acid clouds that reflect approximately 70% of the sunlight that hits them, making Venus one of the most reflective objects in the solar system. It is also closer to Earth than any other planet, making it appear larger and brighter than objects that might be more luminous in absolute terms but are much farther away. When Venus and the crescent moon appear close together in the western sky, they form one of the most visually striking pairings that the night sky regularly produces. The slim silver crescent of a young moon and the brilliant steadiness of Venus beside it. The moon and Venus are not actually close to each other in space. The moon is approximately 384,000 kilometers from Earth. Venus is approximately 100 to 200 million kilometers away depending on its orbital position. They appear close together only because they happen to line up in the same direction as seen from Earth. On May 19th and 20th, Jupiter joins the scene in the western sky after sunset. Jupiter has been visible for much of the evening in May, but the first 10 days of the month provide the last good telescopic viewing of Jupiter before it sinks too low on the horizon to observe effectively as the month progresses. A crescent moon sits to Jupiter's lower right on May 19th and then shifts position as the moon moves through its orbit. The combination of Venus and Jupiter in the same area of the western sky gives May evenings a visual richness that makes casual stargazing rewarding, even for those who do not know any of the names of the stars around them. Two bright planets are difficult to miss, and once you know which is which, the western sky becomes a navigation chart you can read without any equipment. In the morning sky, Saturn and Mars are emerging over the pre-dawn eastern horizon during May 2026. Saturn is the easier of the two to identify because it is brighter and more constant in its glow, with the characteristic pale gold color that distinguishes it from the blue-white of distant stars. Mars, being dimmer and lower in the twilight, requires more effort and clearer conditions to spot. Saturn pulls progressively away from Mars as the month continues, making Saturn increasingly prominent in the pre-dawn sky while Mars lingers in the brightening twilight. A crescent moon floats above Saturn on the morning of May 13th, and then positions itself between Saturn and Mars on the morning of May 14th, providing a celestial signpost for anyone trying to locate the planets for the first time. the moon's predictable movement through the sky, covering approximately 13 degrees per day against the background of stars, makes it one of the most useful guides in the sky for locating planets and navigating the constellations. The new moon on May 16th represents the darkest skies of the month and the best opportunity for observing objects that require dark conditions to be visible. The new moon is also the first of 2 supernew moons in 2026, a designation that refers to a new moon occurring when the moon is near its closest point to Earth in its slightly elliptical orbit. From the ground, supernew moons are not visible because the moon's dark side faces Earth during the new moon phase. But the designation matters for the following full moon, because a new moon near perigee, the closest point of the orbit, tends to be followed by a full moon that is slightly larger and brighter than average, the phenomenon popularly called a supermoon. National Geographic identified the night of May 16th as the optimal night for observing the Milky Way's galactic core because the new moon's absence removes all lunar interference from the sky. The galactic center rises around 11 p.m., depending on your location, and remains visible until pre-dawn hours. The Whirlpool Galaxy near the handle of the Big Dipper and the Sombrero Galaxy near the bright star Spica are also excellent telescope targets during new moon nights, as their relative faintness requires the darkest possible conditions to be rewarding. The month concludes with one of its most anticipated events. May 31st brings the second full moon of the month, which qualifies it as a blue moon. A blue moon, in this calendar definition, is the second full moon occurring within a single calendar month. Because the lunar cycle of 29.5 days is shorter than most calendar months, full moons occasionally fall at both the beginning and the end of the same month, producing 2 full moons in one calendar month, and making the second one a blue moon. The phenomenon happens approximately once every 2 to 3 years. The previous blue moon of this type occurred in August 2023, and the next one after May 2026 will not occur until December 2028, according to NASA's calculations. The May 31st blue moon will be positioned in the constellation Scorpius. It is also technically a micromoon, meaning it occurs when the moon is near its farthest point from Earth in its orbit, making it appear slightly smaller and dimmer than a supermoon, though the difference is subtle enough to be difficult to detect by eye without direct comparison. The name blue moon has nothing to do with the moon's color. A full moon on May 31st will look the same as any other full moon, silver-white when high in the sky and orange or yellow near the horizon, where atmospheric scattering affects its color. Moons genuinely appear blue only when the Earth's atmosphere contains particles of a specific size, such as volcanic ash from major eruptions or smoke from extraordinary wildfire events that scatter red wavelengths and allow blue to pass through. The blue moon of May 31st will almost certainly not look blue. It will simply be an extra full moon at the end of a month that already had one, giving May 2026 a full moon bookend structure, one at the very start of the month and one at the very end, with a dark new moon window in between. May 2026 does not ask much of you. It asks that you set an alarm for before dawn on the morning of May 6th and go outside and look east. It asks that you step outside after dinner on May 18th and look west for a crescent moon and a brilliant point of light beside it. It asks that you find a dark field or a park on May 16th and lie on your back and look for the Milky Way overhead. And it asks that you step outside on the evening of May 31st and look for the blue moon rising in the east, large and orange at the horizon, carrying the ancient name that means simply that something rare has happened and the sky is celebrating it. These are small asks for remarkable returns. The universe puts on this show every year, for free, for anyone willing to look. The science behind each of these May events is worth understanding at a deeper level, because knowing what is actually happening makes what you see in the sky mean more than a pretty light in the dark. The Eta Aquarids represent something profound about how our solar system is structured. Halley's Comet has been making its 76-year circuit around the Sun for at least 100,000 years. Each passage near the Sun releases material from its surface, building up a stream of debris along its orbital path. When Earth crosses this stream twice each year in May and October, it sweeps up tiny particles moving at tremendous speeds. The Eta Aquarids travel at approximately 66 kilometers per second. At that speed, even a particle the size of a grain of sand releases enough kinetic energy in milliseconds to produce a visible streak of light. The brightest Eta Aquarids are produced by particles no larger than a small pebble. Venus's position as the evening star during May 2026 is a consequence of its orbital relationship with Earth, rather than a fixed characteristic. Venus orbits the Sun faster than Earth does, completing a full orbit in approximately 225 days, compared to Earth's 365 days. Because Venus is closer to the Sun and orbits faster, it spends part of its cycle appearing in the evening sky west of the Sun, and part of its cycle appearing in the morning sky east of the Sun. During May 2026, Venus is in its evening phase, visible in the western sky after sunset. Later in the year, it will transition through inferior conjunction, the point where it passes between Earth and the Sun, and emerge as a morning planet visible before dawn in the east. That transition will not happen in May. For now, Venus belongs to the evening sky, and the May 18th conjunction with the crescent moon is the month's finest opportunity to observe it at its most visually accessible, paired with the moon as a natural guide for anyone unfamiliar with the western sky after sunset. Jupiter's position in May 2026 places it low enough in the western sky that telescopic observation becomes progressively more difficult as the month advances. Through a small telescope, Jupiter reveals its 4 Galilean moons, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, as tiny points of light arranged in a line on either side of the planet's disk. Their positions change noticeably from night to night, sometimes even from hour to hour, as each moon orbits Jupiter at its own speed. Galileo Galilei first observed these moons in January 1610 and recognized that they were orbiting Jupiter, not Earth, providing one of the early observational arguments that not all celestial objects orbited our planet. Watching Jupiter's moons through even a modest telescope in May 2026, you are repeating an observation that fundamentally changed humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The first 10 days of May offer the best viewing conditions before Jupiter drops too low in the western sky to observe clearly through the distorting layers of atmosphere near the horizon. The May 16th new moon window for Milky Way observation reflects something that most people who have grown up in or near cities may not have experienced. The Milky Way is invisible from most urban and suburban locations because of light pollution. The artificial light emitted by human settlements creates a sky glow that drowns out the Milky Way and most of the dimmer stars. The full sky visible from a truly dark location contains thousands of stars and the unmistakable arc of the Milky Way, stretching from one horizon to the other. The new moon, on May 16th, removes the one natural light source bright enough to interfere with Milky Way viewing even from dark locations, making it the best night of the month to make the trip to a dark sky site. National and state parks, rural areas far from urban centers, and designated international dark sky places are the best locations to target. May 2026 ends the way it began, with the moon full and bright in the sky, this time carrying the name Blue Moon, and the rarity that name implies. Once every 2 to 3 years, May ends this way, with a second full moon appearing before the calendar turns to June. When it rises on the evening of May 31st above the eastern horizon, large and slightly flattened by atmospheric distortion, its warm color will be the same color every full moon near the horizon shows. Blue moon is a name, not a description. But the name carries something real, which is the recognition that this particular full moon is extra, in addition to the usual monthly cycle, a reminder that our calendar and the moon's calendar do not perfectly align, and that occasionally the mismatch produces something rare enough to be worth celebrating. Go outside in May, set the alarms, find the dark spots, look west after sunset and east before dawn. The sky in May 2026 has prepared something for every one of these efforts. The meteors from a comet you will never see with the naked eye. The moon and Venus paired in the fading twilight. The broad river of the Milky Way above a field far from city lights. And at the end of the month, a blue moon rises over the horizon to close out one of the year's finest months of skywatching.